G'day and welcome to Disc Golf Down Under. It's Matt here, and in the last couple of videos I've been looking at my favourite drivers with the MVP Volt and the Streamline Trace. And in this video I'm moving on to looking at the disc that started me down the MVP rabbit hole and my go-to max distance driver. So let's jump in and check out the MVP Octane. So as I've stated previously, this is an honest review based on my experiences with the disc. I'm now up to my 5th Octane and I've purchased all of them with my own money. And I don't have any association with MVP or disc golf retailers. I've mentioned previously that I play exclusively with MVP, Axiom and Streamline disc, but that's because I love the product. And at the moment I have a red Neutron, a green Proton and a black Plasma Octane, all around the same level of seasoning, maybe about 100 throws with each. They're not quite fully beat in yet, but they're not far off it. So the Octane is a stable to straight distance driver released by MVP in 2016. It's designed as a max distance driver that will give you a moderate turn and a forward straight push with plenty of stability to finish back to the left. As with all MVP discs, this is an overmold disc. So you've got the core with the flight plate and part of the rim molded first, and then they overmold a black rim on the outside of the disc. And well, why do they do this? Well, there's a bit of scientific wizardry behind this, meaning that they can use a lighter, less dense plastic in the core and a more dense, heavier plastic in the rim. And in science speak, this moves the mass outwards and increases the moment of inertia of the disc, giving it more gyroscopic stability. So it has more resistance to being pushed off axis by wind or a bad throw. So on to the specifications for the Octane. And the diameter is a standard 211 millimeters. The rim width is 23 millimeters. The maximum height is 17 millimeters. And the height at the rim is 12 millimeters. Comes in weights ranging from 164 to 175 grams. And the standard flight rating is 13, 5, -1 and 2. The Octane is available in Neutron, Proton, Plasma and Eclipse plastics. So in my flight test today, I'll be throwing 3 different Octanes. So firstly, I have a 172 gram black Plasma Octane that's almost fully seasoned. It's probably the least stable of the 3 discs. The next one is a max weight 175 grams green Proton Octane. And this is beaten in and in the middle with regards to stability. And finally, a 171 gram red Neutron Octane that is a bit more domey and has a lot more stability than I've seen in previous Octanes. Now, just one note before we jump into the flight test, and yes, it is a bit of an excuse, but stupidly, I shot the Octane at the end of a long day of throwing and my timing and power is not where it normally is. So you're not gonna see the best throws out of me that you normally would expect with an Octane. But with that in mind, let's see how it flies. So before we talk performance, I want to talk a bit about my personal experiences with the Octane. It starts back 3 years ago when I had a mixed bag of mainly Innova discs and a few others from Latitude 64, Dynamic and Gateway. And my max distance driver at the time, like many, was the Innova Destroyer. And I bagged one in the Star and one in the Pro Plastic. was a disc that I loved, and over 2 consecutive weekends I managed to lose both of them. I spent hours searching, but they were gone. At the time, the Destroyer was at the peak of popularity as Paul Macbeth's signature disc, and I couldn't find one anywhere in Australia to replace the 2 I lost. So looking at what was available at the time, I stumbled across the MVP Octane. Similar flight rating, slightly higher speed, and a little bit less stable. And if you've ever had a Destroyer, you'll know that the flight rating is just a suggestion because everyone's unique and does their own thing. So a week later, MVP Neutron Octane in the bag, and off I go to the local course to try it out. And OMG, first throw, brand new disc, and it went 10 meters past my longest ever drive on that hole with the Destroyer. Fluke maybe? Well, next hole, crushed it again. Long distance, and I'm thinking, are these MVP discs really that good? So I was instantly in love with the Octane, and so long Destroyers. Straight home after the round, and I was online grabbing another Octane, Proton one this time, along with an Envy and a Volt. And that was it. Second Octane was also great, ticked more stable in the Proton plastic, and the Envy and the Volt were also brilliant. Weeks later, and I'm well and truly down the MVP rabbit hole, and so glad that I did. Now, unfortunately, I don't have either of the 2 Octanes that I originally had anymore. I lost both of them and almost wept when I did. So I've owned 5 Octanes now, and my experience has been generally that the Proton is the most stable, Neutron's a little less stable, and the Plasma is the least stable. I haven't tried the Eclipse, but my first Neutron one was the favorite and fairly close to the numbers. I can throw it flat, turns over slightly to the right, give you a nice S-curve, glide nicely, fading back to the left at the end with a consistent finish. And if there's a decent headwind, I'd switch up to the Proton Octane, which has a touch more stability and maybe a bit more turn. So maybe a 13.5, negative 0.52. So my replacement Neutron that you see now is much more stable than the Proton and more than my previous Neutron. It's also a lot more domey. Maybe it'll beat in a little bit more and lose some of its stability. That's what I'm hoping for anyway, but it's still a great disc. The Octane for me is the big bomber in my bag. Can be a little touchy in the wind, but the more stable ones like this Neutron are there when I need them. Now they are speed 13 discs, so the rim does feel big in the hand. Not uncomfortable for me, but I personally wouldn't go higher than a speed 13. Now unfortunately I wasn't able to demonstrate some of the bigger throws in the flight test. The Octane definitely rewards you when you get your timing and your power right. Okay, so who is the Octane for? Well, being a speed 13 disc, this is not a disc for a beginner. And to really get the most from this disc, you're going to have good arm speed and some snap. So you want to be at least at an intermediate level before you look at the Octane. If you do have that power, you can throw it flat, get it to flip over and turn nicely and fade back at the end. This will give you those nice maximum distance S-curves that you see and that you really want to get. The disc does need a little bit of room to move though, so you're going to need a wide fairway. Throwing backhand, I have to aim a good 10 to 20 meters to the right of where I want it to finish, depending on the stability of the Octane that I use and the wind conditions that I'm dealing with. For me, it's still fairly reliable in a headwind. It will get a little flippy and can ride more, so accuracy can drop off when you're dealing with a headwind. Now the Octane comes in the 4 different plastic blends, offering a good range of differing stabilities. And also keep an eye on whether they are flat-topped or domey. My domey Neutron one here is definitely more stable, and I'm not sure if other Octanes are like this or not. Final thoughts on the Octane. Well, I'm sure you've heard it enough times now. I love the Octane. If I had a signature disc, this would be it. They do vary in stability and shape from disc to disc from the same mold, but this just gives each disc a bit more personality. I currently carry 2 in the bag, the Neutron and the Proton, and this Plasma one may drop in soon as well. I'm just trying out the Catalyst at the moment, also from MVP, to see how it flies in comparison to the Plasma Octane. So for me, the Octane simply destroys the Innova Destroyer. So there you have it, the disc that led me to changing every disc in my bag, the MVP Octane. Hope you found the video useful and entertaining. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe to Disc Golf Down Under. I'm about to embark on a new series of disc golf videos that's going to require a little effort on my end, but hopefully all disc golfers will find it a useful learning and reference resource. So stay tuned if you want to find out what that is. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.